and welcome to Science Time. We're going to continue learning about severe weather. Today, our focus is on ice storms. What do you think that is? Well, let's break apart the word ice storms. I know storms are things that happen with weather. We get thunderstorms, snowstorms, ice. I have ice that comes out of my freezer, makes things cold, and I know ice is cold. So it's a storm that's cold and makes ice. What temperature does ice form? Any guesses? 32 degrees. Okay, we talked about our temperature scale with the thermometer. We use degrees Fahrenheit in the United States. Now, 32 degrees Fahrenheit is the magic number. If it's below that number and it's wet outside, whether it rained or it snowed, that is now turning into ice. Okay, that's when it's dangerous to be out driving around, out running around. But during the day, if it's above 32, it's not ice. Okay, you do have to be careful though. Say it's 40 degrees outside and you're going somewhere by a shaded area that looks like wet and it looks like it probably is ice, but you think, well, it's warm out. It could be ice if it's not getting sun. There are certain spots in my neighborhood that the houses and trees are blocking, and there's still snow and ice from 2 weeks ago on the street. There's no other snow anywhere else, but you can see where the sun isn't shining through and it's actually ice. So just be careful. Cars have a really hard time on ice because they can't stop. So normally when you're driving, you slam on your brakes, you stop. When there's ice on the ground and you're driving, you slam on your brakes, but the wheels can't get traction enough to stay on the road, and so they slide. So you could slide, and sometimes you're not sliding perfectly straight. You might start turning a little bit. About 2 years ago, when I was driving to school and I was dropping off one of my kids, I turned, and instead of just turning perfectly, the back of my van started sliding and it slid sideways into a curb because I slid on ice. Okay. But the ice was under the snow. So there's the thing. It all kind of piles up on each other. If you have ice to begin with and then it snows, that ice is still there. So you got to be careful. It's tricky out there when there's an ice storm. And ice storms are exactly what they are. They are ice all over the place. So you can see in these illustrations lots of different ice here. These are trees that have actually broken from ice. How does it break? Well, ice could get really heavy. If you think about all these trees being covered in icicles and the amount of weight that's pushing down, it might make it just break. All right, I do have a couple other fun things to show you about ice. All right, so ice storms can be dangerous. They can damage houses, especially roofs. Okay, so we want to make sure we keep safe from ice storms. Wow, look at that picture. Look at that. Look at that car covered in ice. We don't get ice storms really here in Colorado. If you go more to the Midwest over by like Arkansas, they get a lot of those ice storms there. So, in some parts of the world, winter weather can create a frozen wonderland of snow and ice. Ponds freeze into solid sheets that support huts for icing. Snowing on hills is perfect for sledding. Okay, so an ice storm can quickly coat an area into ice. Look at that tree. So, how does an ice storm form? Winter storms, oh, hold on, I went too far. Let's go up here. All right. All right. So here is how they form. So they form when cold air and warm air masses bump into each other, which is kind of a common thing we're finding with most of our storms. Hurricanes, they're warm and moist from the ocean and they come together. So if you look at this picture, you have cold air and the warm air. And when they hit together, it creates a cold front that then pushes out. So as the warm air is trying to rise, it's actually getting colder. okay? And that water vapor turns into liquid water and ice. Clouds form above the cold air. Rain and snow will start to fall through the cold air, and then it will start to freeze. All right. So there's some pictures here. I just really wanted to show you these illustrations. Look at this bench. You can just see how this freezing rain has covered it. It's super cooled raindrops, and they turn into ice immediately when it touches something. So it's not like it stays wet and then turns icy. It just starts as ice. And it's super cold. Remember, we talked about that 32 degrees. The drops instantly freeze when they hit the ice cold surfaces. So what that means is if you had something that you just had inside your house and you put it outside, it's still warm. So it wouldn't freeze instantly. What they're saying is things that are outside are already cold, get hit by that, it turns into ice. And ice is heavy. Let's look at this bottom picture right here. So it says ice is heavy. So a half of inch of ice on a power line adds 500 pounds. So that's how things break in storms. So we have lots of power lines. A lot of our neighborhoods now have power lines under the ground, but by my parents' house, they have some of these. So if they had really heavy snow or ice, it could cause the power to go out. Let's look at this one. This is a power tower, power line tower. Look at that. It said in 1998, ice storms had hit New England and parts of eastern Canada. The ice weighed down power lines and trees. Homes lost powers for weeks. Weeks. You couldn't turn anything on in your house because all the power lines were out. But again, we have meteorologists who can predict these types of storms so that they can tell people to warn them that it could happen. So they use something called amount of freezing rain. This is up north, okay? So this is up by Canada. This is above New York, Maine. You can see they have the most ice and freezing rain up north because, again, they're closer to the North Pole. So we don't have ice storms. We get ice, but it's a little bit different than that. And cars can slide. All right. One thing I wanted to tell you about, which is really cool, it's called thunderstorms, thunder snow. So it's when there is thunder during a snowstorm. Maybe you've seen it. It doesn't happen that often, but it's actually a thunderstorm. So thunder snow is when thunder and lightning occur during a snowstorm. This occurs most often in late winter or early spring. The thunder snow, you need to have a mass, a lot of cold air on top of warm air. So cold air is sitting on top of the warm air. It puts the moist air closer to the ground, so it's pushing it down. So then the thunderstorm snow starts out like a summer thunderstorm because it's kind of confused with the way they're sitting on top of each other. The sun is heating the ground and pushes the warm air upwards, creating the unstable air, and then it forms clouds, which then are getting moved around, and then the thunderstorm is created when it's wintertime because of how the atmosphere is looking. So the layer has to be warmer than the layers above. So if the bottom part is warm, you could get it. So you could actually hear thunder during a snowstorm. Doesn't happen very much, but it could happen. And I just wanted to show you a couple more pictures about ice storms, which are freezing rain. It's exactly what it is. It's not snow, it's freezing rain. Look at these pictures. You could see. And of course, once the sun comes up and it gets above 32 degrees, this will melt. But again, it's just covered in ice. I mean, look at this picture. Look at how much ice. It's a winter ice storm. Look at the cars. Very interesting. So what I'm going to have you do is to go ahead and get out your types of severe weather book. And we're going to open up tornadoes, hurricanes, blizzards, Ice storms. All right, let's read it. I'm going to read it, then you read it. Ice storms cover everything with ice. Your turn. Ice storms cover everything with ice. So it's exactly what it says it is. An ice storm is a storm filled with ice. All right, I'll see you tomorrow.